What is going on, guys? In today's video, I will show you the best Flicker Strike monk build in part of Exile 2. So in this guide, I will give you a quick overview of this setup. Then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well, we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the mid game and end game. And then finally, we will go over the passive tree, attributes, your skill rotations, and even what Atlas passive should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you are looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video description or the pinned comment. This setup is known as the Flicker Strike build, which generates massive amounts of frenzy charges from the combat frenzy by freezing and electrocuting enemies, which then we can even further convert to the power charges with our resonance keystone. Every time we have the power charges, we want to spend them on the Flicker Strike. Sometimes we can get so many rapid shots that we can get one-shotted by just how many enemies we dash through. And that is why for defense, we want to focus on building up our physical damage reduction and the shield charges, which then are further doubled by our Grim Feast buff. So if you are looking for the new top 1 monk build, then here it is. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the monk, and our Ascendancy is the Invoker. Then for the first skill, we have the Flicker Strike, and for support gems, we want to go with the Perpetual Charge, Close Combat, Heavy Swing, Heft and the Concentrated Effect. Then second, we get the Tempest Fury with the Electrocute, Rage, Martial Tempo, Inspiration and Neural Overload. Then next we got the Charge Staff with the Persistence, Conduction, Primal Armament and Raising Tempest. Next we have the Herald of the Thunder with the Cold Infusion, Glaciation and Ice Bite. Next up we have the Ghost Dance with just Fast Forward. Next we get the Grim Feast with the Clarity and Cannibalism. Next we have the Herald of the Ice with the Cold Mastery, Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion and Innervate. Next we got the Wind Dancer with the Pin on Lockdown. Then for one of the last ones we have the Tempest Belt with the Overabundance, Rage Forge and the Potential. And finally for the last one we are using the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. Most of this setup is structured around using the Flicker Strike to delete enemies in seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next we also have a leveling build in case if you are starting your journey from level 0 and you want to use it up until about level 25, where you should start getting our most important skills. So first off we have the Falling Thunder with the Lightning Infusion. Then next we have Killing Palm with the Profusion. Then third we got the Glacial Cascade with the Cold Fusion and Ice Bite. And finally we are using the Tempest Belt with the Concentrated Effect. This is your basic setup up until you get our build's 2 most important skills. In the early stages of progression, we are using the Falling Thunder and the Glacial Cascade as our main ability combo, as they're very powerful, especially at the beginning. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the skill speed node. Then next let's go and take all of these 3, so the Flow Like Water, Mindful Awareness and the Crashing Wave. Then next up we want to keep on going and take both of these whole circles, so the Power Within and the Lust for Power. Then from here let's keep going, and then next go up top here while taking all of these, so the Resonance Keystone while also getting the True Strike for the Juggler and the Deadly Force. And then from here we can go all the way up top, and from this point you can just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more dexterity. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Lead Me Through the Grace, as this makes you gain spirit per energy shield and evasion on your body armor. This should be one of the first gear pieces you craft or purchase to reach enough spirit to use all of your passive skills. Then second we get and Protect Me from Harm. This one is crucial for defense, allowing you to gain additional physical damage reduction based on your evasion rating. Then third we get Sunder My Enemies, which is a huge DPS increase. It also means that you don't have to spec any penetration nodes. And then finally we have the I Am the Blizzard, which adds additional cold damage and makes it easier to freeze the enemies. So in PoE 2, earning skill points take a lot of hard work, so it will be very smart not to spend your points recklessly. Of course, you can refund your passive points later, but only at a cost, so following a specific setup is extremely useful. If you are following this build, then make sure to not to deviate from it, as some of the decisions that I made might not make sense at first, but is going to pay off later. So feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video description to find a link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start, we wanna first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we circle back to middle, and this time take the left side and get all of these nodes. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives, which in order you unlock them doesn't really matter. So again, it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses. And then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup. And then finally we have our breach setup. Then moving over to the next part, which is the gear. The weapon of our choice is the Crescent Quarterstaff with a crit and weapon speed. And for bonus stats we want increased physical damage, then also adds to physical or cold damage, then even more crit like crit chance, crit damage bonus and increased attack speed. Then for helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want even more max energy shield, then basic increased energy shield, then max life and increased critical hit chance. Then for chest we have the Expert Fey Veyor jacket with evasion and energy shield. And for more we got Chaos Resistance, Evasion, Max and increased Evasion and Energy Shield. Then also more to Intelligence and Fire and Cold Resistance. Then for belt we have the Utility Belt with 20% faster Flask Recovery. And for more we need Max Life, Evasion, more to Charm slots, and then Lightning and Fire Resistance. Then for gloves we got the Expert Spiral Warps with the Evasion and Energy Shield. And for more we got adds cold damage to attacks, max life, increased attack speed and fire and cold resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Threaded Shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, max life and then chaos and cold resistance. Then for first ring we got the Unsent Ring with 1 additional skill slot. And for more we need adds lightning damage to attacks, max life, percentage to all elemental resistances, and more to lightning resistance. While then on the second one we have the Breach Ring, with max quality now is at least 50%, and for the extras we got max life, adds cold damage, percentage to all elemental resistances, and cold and fire resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Serpent's Egg with bunch of stuff, like increased rarity, more to all attributes, more chaos resistance, increased mana regen, and most importantly, gain additional charge when you gain a charge, so pretty much this will double it. This amulet is the best in slot but not required, so if you can't afford it or find it, then you can just go with anything else with similar stats. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap. This is a starter setup which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear is socketted with resistant runes. However, once your elemental resistances have been capped and resistant runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase your maximum life with body runes or consider socketing a soul core. So right now on our weapon we are using the Iron rune, then on our helmet we have the Glacial rune, and then for the rest of our equipment we are using the Storm rune. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town each time you level up, as vendors can change their offerings based on your level, so this is the best way to find upgrades. And then after level 65, you just wanna keep continuing repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth tutorial, check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Golden Charm for when I kill rares or uniques. Then second, we get the Stone Charm for when I become stunned. And then finally, we're using the Taving Charm for when we become frozen. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting. So feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And I will give you 2 rotations, so one for AoE and one for single targets. So our highest damage rotation for AoE mob farming and maps is to start by activating the Tempest Fury. Then next use the Charge Staff. Then afterwards one more Tempest Fury, then now use once the Flicker Strike. Then again one more Tempest Fury, and then finish it off with one more Flicker Strike. Our ailments are essential for the Flicker Strike to function, as it is our primary method to generate power charges. So that's why each time we want to use the Tempest Fury to activate it and keep on going. And then for the second rotation, this time for the bosses, we want to use once the Tempest Fury, then the Tempest Belt, then again the Tempest Fury in combination with the Charge Staff. Then next we do the same thing again, so Fury with the Charge Staff. Then use twice the Tempest Fury and then finish it off with the Tempest Belt. Overall, we want to place down our Tempest Belt as much as possible, as it gives us a massive damage bonus, especially against bosses. And then lastly, our Evasion and Energy Shield will allow us to utilize the Ghost Dance, as well as grant us with Spirit from the Body Armor. And then lastly, our Evasion and Energy Shield will allow us to utilize the Ghost Dance, as well as granting us with the Spirit from the Body Armor, to enable all of our passive skills to work properly. So, let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 best monk builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds, so click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.